towards us and our residents. I appreciate that, but the issues are systemic.
Okay.
They really are
And the other
systemic.
question I have for you is, I was looking at the FEMA website, or at least the Indiana DHS
Yeah.
website, and they had in there that they were giving people up to $5,000 in assistance. Now, the only news
Yeah.
coverage that I've seen has been predominantly Chicago news talking about, but they're talking about Hobart. They'll like touch on Gary. They'll mention Gary, but a lot of the food that and all the giveaways and stuff, people understand that's not Gary. Even though they're saying it is, it isn't. It isn't Gary, Indiana, because there was no electricity there first. They restored everybody else kind of around Gary, but not
Yeah.
Gary, Indiana itself. So have you gotten any type of flyers? Because obviously you guys don't have electricity. Has there been any type of, I want to say, federal, right, workers on the ground saying, how are you guys doing? Because the governor did declare a state of emergency. That included Gary. So have you seen any activity?
I haven't seen any like national presence or federal presence at all.
Wow.
I've seen the Indiana National Guard.
Okay.
I haven't seen FEMA or anything like that. I still don't think we're a nationally declared emergency yet.
Interesting.
I don't think we've been declared nationally. Um, all my people that say uh, black folks do better under conservative governments or Republicans, um, I will want them to take note as well, because it all depends on how it's set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in a Republican state, but we are in Gary, Indiana. So of course, most of the people vote blue, because some of the Democrats are the ones. It's not just black, it's not just black and white or
Yeah.
red and blue.
Hmm.
So I'm paying attention
Yeah. What
to
I've
the
seen in Indiana is red is at the top, like the state positions are red, but the city and county positions are all blue, if that makes sense. Because South
yeah.
Bend is that way. South Bend is predominantly Democrat, but it is a Republican state, right? People say, well, this is a Republican state. No, it's not. It's a Republican state at the top, not at the local level. At the local level, it is predominantly Democrat. You'd be like, what? You have to throw a whole lot of stones to find
Yeah,
a
so that
Republican
puts
at
us
the
on an
local
island.
level.
Yeah, so that puts us on an island in the state to
Yes.
where we don't, like Indianapolis, of course they have a bigger tax base, but they get a lot of more funding and a lot of just more consideration than Northwest Indiana, because if we've always been looked at as like the rogue part of
Hmm.
Indiana, or we just not part of Indiana. They'll say openly, "Oh, we part of Chicago." Like, no, we're Gary, Indiana. Like
Indiana.
we Gary. We have our
Yeah.
whole own culture, our own vibe, our own
Hmm.
everything that we bring, our own soul food spots, our own lingo, our own everything. Gary is such a unique experience. Um, to where I'm a first like my even my parents weren't born in Gary.
Oh,
No,
wow.
they were born, but their parents are not from Gary. Like they
Okay.
from like my grandparents are from Haytown, Missouri, and
Okay.
Sulligent, Alabama. So it's
Okay.
like you get like me, I'm only on my third generation
Hmm.
in Gary, but we're multi-generation where you got people that came from the South and they've been here and they still
Right.
might even have they southern accents, but Gary is home, you know what I'm saying? And it's just you really don't get the feel for Gary unless you actually come here and actually talk to the people and understand, like, yeah, it's some of the most brightest uh people that come out of Gary. And if we had more,
Yeah.
and if we had more resources, and so that's why we just getting more
Yeah.
advocates, and we just
Because
doing more.
it always astonishes me. It's like the Jackson Five came out of Gary, Indiana, and it's like y'all can't keep Gary above water. You know what I mean? Because what I see is like a lot of the towns, especially predominantly Black American towns, instead of them burning it down this time, it's like they're just letting it die. Does that make sense? They're just
Yeah,
letting it
we
die.
were like the one of the original, like, real ghost towns, I guess, like
Mm-hmm.
they called it, to where I, it might be other places, but in Gary, especially when I was a kid, it wasn't unusual to see a whole block of abandoned buildings,
Wow.
entire block, nobody living on it. So I kind of understand they'll just leave, they'll just pick up and go, and no,
Wow.
no regard for how we gonna make it, because Gary was a factory town in its
Yes.
inception, company town, even to be more
Mm-hmm.
specific. U.S. Steel started the town of Gary,
Yep.
to where their workers, the professionals, their professionals and their corporate staff would stay on the west side, and their skilled laborers, foremen, etc., would stay on the east side. Now, this was 1907. Um, Come the 30s, you got people starting to migrate during the Great Migration from
Yes.
mainly Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi,
Right.
Louisiana, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas. By the 50s, Gary is bustling, and
Yeah.
is very segregated due to the
Mm-hmm.
change in demographics. And
Right.
you have Black Americans from the South that are reaching a status in Gary, that are reaching a status that other groups don't want them to reach. Um,
Which
my
is
my
crazy
uncle,
because they're always like, black people need to do better. We have been. We were. But then other people got kind of jealous and we're like, we gotta pull the rug out from under them.
yeah, my uncle, he worked in the steel mills, and he has a closet full of gators.
Wow.
That's one of the things he did. We do motorcycles, and he ended up getting a closet full of gators. One time he showed me $150,000 cash legally. He had legally. He just had it for emergency. So he's
He was like, just in
well-to-do
case.
black people.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well-to-do black Americans in the city of
Wow.
Gary. And so by the 60s, in 1967, you see white flight,
Mm-hmm.
where you got the other groups, where, because Gary, it had a lot of Eastern, it didn't, quote unquote, heritage Americans. Might have been a few, but there were a lot of, like, Eastern European, Greek immigrants,
Okay. That sounds about
Italians.
right. Because there's a lot of Polish individuals that live in South Bend, Indiana. So
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, a lot of Polish immigrants, that started to leave Gary, started to go places like Whiting, Hammond,
Mm-hmm.
Hobart, Crown Point.
Right.
1967, Richard Hatcher gets elected, and Richard Hatcher is the first Black American mayor of a metropolitan city. So one of the larger cities that's gaining steam, and that's really uh, head first in the industrial, manufacturing aspect of America. Um, so, just like Gary, it's a lot of cities like Gary, Youngstown, Flint, Saginaw, Cleveland, East St. Louis, Milwaukee, um, Rockford. You got a lot of cities that are just like Gary, who they were built through Black American manufacturing, and those jobs were shipped overseas to,
Yeah.
even before NAFTA. It was
Mm-hmm.
white flight and disinvestment. So then,
Mm.
1967, you got Richard Hatcher get elected, and that is when the white flight just takes off. So in 1971, there were towns that broke Indiana code and bylaws to become incorporated, just because you had other groups that white people and other groups that associated with whites that they couldn't, they just could, they quote unquote